Very good afternoon. Assalamualaikum, and thank you MC for nice introduction. So we have a list of distinguished panelists in this session. I think we have spoken earlier much about the technology, digital investments. So it is equally important to that is to see what kind of back-end infrastructure that has to be invested to make sure that we can enable digital economy. We have quite a tremendous aspiration in terms of contribution to the GDP in the next 5 years. So without the infrastructure, and we would have a problem of achieving that. So we would like to dive into discussions on what are the challenges, what are the opportunities. We have diversified speakers, panelists in this thing coming from different background. We have Mr. Billy Lee, who is an experienced and industry players in the DC field, data center field. We have started businesses many years ago, so we share a bit from the perspective of the industry. And we have Encik Nasaruddin, who is now is a chief customer officer, right, of TMB, and where he will be sharing from the perspective of utility, what kind of support, what kind of enablement that the TMB would be supporting the growth of digital economy. And lastly, we have Saiful, who is Managing Director for MSAR Resources, one of the dark fiber players in the country. So obviously, we would love to seek the views of our panelists here on how would they play a role, what kind of best practices moving forward in terms of contributing to the digital economy from the perspective of digital infrastructure. So let's hear from them in this exciting session. So without further ado, may I invite each of them, starting with Mr. Billy, to give just a brief introduction of yourself and what do you do to the floor. Thank you, Billy. Go.
Hold on, Mr. Billy. Yeah, just my humble apologies for the benefit of our viewers out here. Let's have the Slido QR code as well up here. So as the panel goes on discussing digital infra investments in Malaysia, if you have any questions, please use the Slido platform to ask your questions, and hopefully in Encik Wan, the questions will come out on your iPad.
Sure.
And of course, we can address the questions once the time is done. Thank you, Mr. Billy. It's back to you.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. My name is Billy. I'm from CSF. So CSF, we have more than 20 years of experience in building data center for our client. We have built more than 300 data centers in the region. And that's a brief info. And the question is more on what will be enabling the nation. I think very important aspect for Malaysia to grow as a data center investment hub is the government support, right? So far, I have seen quite a strong support from the government. Consistently, it's not just 1 year or 2 years. I have seen MDEC and the government agencies been trying to push Malaysia as a data center hub for more than 15 years, okay? So that is a very strong mandate that government have put in as an initiative to help grow the digital investment in Malaysia.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you, Billy, for the nice introduction. Encik Nasaruddin?
Yeah, thank you, Wan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm from Tenaga Nasional. I'm sure you all know what we do. We provide electricity to places that you need electricity. But what I want to share a bit as an introduction is what the trends we are seeing in power transition. Yeah? I think if you look at it, there are 3 main trends happening right now in power transition. I think the first one is people know decarbonization. I think we need cleaner air. Basically, these are the first trend that we are seeing, and the government also has set a target for Malaysia. I mean, past government, whereby by 2025, 31% of the power produced in Malaysia must come from renewable energy, cleaner. You know? So this is the first trend that we are seeing. A lot of support from the government on that side, and also we are seeing even corporations, residential houses, they're also putting solar on their rooftops. This is part of the game that they are playing to make sure that they contribute as well in this renewable energy. That's the first trend. The second one we are seeing is the electrification Yeah. If you see, more things are being electrified right now. For telecommunication industry, for sure. The tower that's before this, that is off-grid, example, they are not near the power line, they have to use genset. But now a lot of effort, they want to electrify this with the solar and battery combined. So there's an effort from the telco companies whereby they want to do this to make sure they electrify their operation. And for transportation, you know, electric vehicles is coming in very strongly. And in fact, a lot of support from the government to promote the electric vehicle. And recently, DHL also brought in vans, electric vans for transporting their goods in Malaysia. And in fact, now they are piloting electric airplanes in the US. You know, this is again part of the electrification effort done by the companies. So the third one, this is what we are here for, is the digitalization. A lot of things happening, things are being digitalized, online business, social media, TikTok videos, all these things happening require a lot of disk storage, a lot of computing power, that hence require a lot of data centers here and there. So I think that's why we are here today to talk about how ready we are in Malaysia to support this emerging data center, I would say, setups. And we at Tenaga Nasional, we are here to support this growth in this data center. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Cik Nasa. Maybe Cik Saiful.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Cik Wan. I'm from MSA, MSA Resources in Berhad, called MSA. We are a fiber company. What do I mean by fiber company? We provide fiber as a service to the market. We started our business by providing fiber connectivity on Malaysia-Singapore Second Link Bridge since 2007. And we are expanding our coverage using highway. We have been granted the permission to use highways. We have obtained 29 highways to build our fiber optic backbone network. And our focus would be on DC to DC connectivity, CLS to POP, as well as border to border. And as a PFR, this company is a PFR. It's basically privately funded, and we are very excited to see the OTTs, the data centers operators, are really stepping up their investment in Malaysia. So because we goes where the demands are. So that's to make our investment viable. So thank you very much.
So thank you, Cik Saiful. So we have heard that the ecosystem of digital infrastructure is quite wide. If you see that basically we spoke about data centers, submarine cables, so all of those constitute an ecosystem of digital infrastructure, and of course supported by grid utilities, water supply, power supply, and land matter. So those are the combination of ecosystem that will bring up the opportunities for further investments in this field. So we have heard from Billy just now that government support is quite good in this thing, and Cik Nasaruddin also mentioned TMB in a way is aligned to the aspiration of the government, and Cik Saiful mentioned how we can play the role in fulfilling the ecosystem. Maybe Billy, from the perspective of industry, apart from those things, government supports everything. So what are the critical criteria for an investor to choose a location for them to invest in data center? Maybe you can share a few insight into that thing so that we are aware what are the trends, what are the consideration that they have investors have to take into place for them to decide on investments.
Yeah, I think the current topic about the industry is about choosing which country to place their digital investment, especially for data center and network connectivity, submarine cables, etc. I would say most of the investors who start looking into a country, they will look into, of course, the basic elements of power, land, connectivity, readiness of a country. Beside that, they also have other evaluation methods that look into the demand size of a country, whether it can support it to grow, whether it has a right government support system, as well as the entire digital infrastructure ecosystems that consist of building the right data center, from equipment vendor, local electricity, M&E consultant, designer, as well as human resources, which is also a key to help support the growth of the digital investment. So those basically sums up the most of the criteria that an investor will be looking into it. But besides evaluating all these general criteria, it's also very important that the investor now is looking way ahead, not just now. They look into 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years periods of their investment, whether the country has the capability to continue to support the growth, because no investor wanted to invest in a country where it only allows them to grow for 5 years, right? And I believe Malaysia right now is catering and is ready for all the investors, not only to invest right now, but also cater for the future requirement. Of course, with lots of support from the industry player.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Billy. So obviously, we have to look at a longer runway in terms of attracting these kind of investments, where we have to look at how sustainable we are in terms of retaining the current investment, attracting new investments in digital infrastructure. So we spoke about power just now. Power been one of the most, in terms of costs, about 40 to 50% of OPEX comes from the power. And we know that TNB is into this game. So we have started to see demand, a big demand coming in from the investors, like hundreds or maybe tens of megawatts. So from the perspective of TNB, how is TNB prepared to embrace this kind of new demand, and whether you can provide any comfortable explanation on how do we make sure that investors and potential investors are being comforted for the fact that they are coming to Malaysia, they are getting the support from our utility providers.
Yeah, okay. Actually, we at TNB we are very excited about this opportunity, about this potential growth in this data center. We are very excited about it, excited for the nation, excited for the country. We have a lot of investment coming into Malaysia. And we ourselves have not seen this before, for sure, because before this, if you look at the power guzzlers, I will call it power guzzlers, these are all operations that requires a lot of power, came from steel industry. Yeah, it was many, many years ago. And when they come also, they don't come very often. I mean, once in 1 year, once in 2 years, kind of that frequency. Then followed by manufacturing. Manufacturing, expansion, and all that stuff also started to see a lot of huge demand in terms of power requirement. But now what we are seeing, this data center, the requirement is really huge, as well as they want it very fast, you know. So we at Tenaga, we never seen this before, but we are prepared for this. We in Tenaga, we even have a dedicated team right now to look after data center potential applications specifically. Yeah, meaning to say that all data center players, we are here to serve them and understand what the requirements are, what are the locations that they want, what is the capacity that they want, and we quickly bring it up to our back office, talk to the grid, talk to the back supporting people to get it ready. And in fact, all the data centers that we have right now, in general, the capacity is about 30 megawatt max today, what we have today. But the people are coming in, they are huge. And in fact, we have recently commissioned a data center in Johor with a capacity of 150 megawatt. That's 5 times bigger than what it is today. Oh, this is what we all are all excited about actually, but even though it's a good problem to have for us, but we'll make sure that we will serve them well, we will make sure the power will be provided timely based on the demand, but still, depending on the location, depending on the capacity, there's still some work needs to be done from our side, but we are committed to this. Yep.
Yeah, it is good to note that how TMB has transformed into addressing this kind of new and emerging requirements. I think we have also uplifted our standard of delivery because I think we, with the kind of demand from the investors of wanting it faster, bigger demand, so it changed, it uplift our standard in terms of fulfilling the needs of this kind of new breed of digital investors. So again, and coming back to Saiful, we spoke about power just now. The other second most critical component of attracting this kind of investment is connectivity. So obviously we need to make sure that we have matured and thriving ecosystem for us to be able to serve the needs. Because we spoke about data being located in particular country, it cannot live without a good connection, whether in the country or to the customers outside of the country. So maybe from the perspective of one of the dark fiber provider, service provider, maybe you can share with us how are you managing this, whether are you seeing this as a new source of demand or new growth for the connectivity provider like EMSA. Maybe you can share a few thoughts on this thing.
Okay, the traditional way of connectivity is basically customer and users, they don't have a say how the routing of the network. So the telco will provide from A to point B, and we as a user, we cannot tell, I want certain latency, okay? But if you look at the users who are actually behind these data centers operators, they are actually huge OTTs, okay? I mean, what do I mean by that? They are actually like company like Google, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft. These are the drivers of these data centers. And they know what they want. And they have very huge bargaining power. So what are the most critical thing for these people? Number one is latency. Okay? They are telling the operators, I want to go from this data center to the other data center at this latency. So they choose the best route to connect from point A to point B. That is never happened before. So what is the best product or best service for this requirement is basically dark fiber. All right? So that one is one thing. Number two is, on top of they want the best route, they want a fixed cost. They don't want to pay for variable cost. I mean, the traditional way of telco charging is basically the more you use the bandwidth, you have to pay more lah. Macam tenaga, right? Like tenaga. So you pay water instead of pipe. Okay, they don't want, because the business model that they have does not support that. Okay, they make money from advertisement. They do not make money from bandwidth services. Right? So these are the two very important variables that determine how telco must react. So I think moving forward, Malaysian telco need to learn how to operate based on fixed rather than variable rate. That's my opinion. Right. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. So we can see obviously pulling in the DC data center investments would indirectly entice the investment in connectivity, because it has to be coexist together between these two type of facilities. So again, I think we spoke about the opportunities just now. Maybe let's talk a bit about the challenges from the lenses of the industry utility provider. So anything that you want to highlight in terms of challenges that we should address that for us to be able to provide a complete ecosystem for us to attract this kind of investment? Maybe I start with Cik Nasa first on this thing from the perspective of TMB.
I think we are here to serve them. Yeah, depending on what they need, we will find the best solution for them. But what we typically see is on two things. One is on the amount of energy they need. The second one is the time frame that they need. You know, so as mentioned earlier, based on the amount they need and they want it very fast, so that gives us challenges as well. Yeah. So having said that, we as a team within Tenaga, because we have many divisions who has to work together to do this, we will find ways and means to really give the best for the customer. Yeah. So as I cited example earlier, we managed to deliver this 150 megawatt within a year. That's really was never done before. And in fact, if you look at typically, that kind of a requirement, we need about 3 to 5 years to do. Yeah, that's a typical requirement. But in fact, the upcoming one as well, we have shortened the time frame to be able to provide the supply within even 12 months to 15 months. Yeah, so these are, we are very serious about this to make sure Malaysia is the country for data center.
Yes.
Especially now they are having difficulties in other countries, namely Singapore. I visited Singapore recently talking to the data center players. They are seeing that the tariff also has increased 30% in Singapore. They are looking definitely the second place for data center, and they're looking at Malaysia. And as I mentioned, now with Tenaga, we are not playing back-end role anymore. We are really, listening to them upfront and to try to understand and serve them the best that we can.
So there is a window of opportunities for Malaysia to capture this thing. Either we up ourselves to that game or we lose the opportunity. So, Billy, wearing the hat of investors, any challenges that you want to highlight? I know you've been praising the government for giving the good support, but I believe there is something that you want to share. Maybe you can have some insight into that thing.
I think working with other investor or myself as investing into industry, I think time is the essence for us to make a decision. Like I mentioned before, the investor will be either investing into this country or other countries, right? So when they want to make an investment decision, in order for them to confirm that they want to invest into a project, right? So there are a lot of aspects of things that we need to confirm, right? So one of the key challenges that we are facing is the feedback and confirmation speed from various parties back to us. For example, of course, now TNB has improved in terms of the response time, like confirming whether the capacity that the customer is subscribing, whether can be given, right? So a lot of time when they want to invest into a country, when they want to seek confirmation, let's say they want 100 megawatt, they want the answer like today, whether you can give me 100 megawatts of capacity today. And they will also ask for fiber providers. I want to have 20 pairs of dark fiber from here to there. Can you give it to me? Can you confirm it to me today, right? So in order for them to make the decision, not only these two portions, as well as the land, right? Where is the location? Where will be the suitable location for them to invest and procure the land to start developing? Whether that land is suitable and is allowable to operate as a data center. Those are the key challenges so far that we are facing. And we also hope that it can be shortened so that it's easier for the investor to make the decision.
So the time is an essence in this case because of the need for them to decide quite prompt in terms of putting the money into a particular country. So with the demand now is coming in, so I believe from the dark fiber perspective, I believe you are pretty much, the university is pretty much excited to see that new wave of demands coming in. Would you see any, Cik Saiful, from your side, would you see any challenges of fulfilling their needs, apart from the time, execution, and then, of course, something is a business opportunities that has to be grabbed by the providers to fulfill?
Okay, I see two clusters of data center development in Malaysia. The first clusters is the data center development in the southern of Johor, in light of Kidex, Gelang Patah, those areas, right? The requirement is driven by, Singapore has put a moratorium of data center. That's the main driver, okay? But the main challenge of actually fulfilling or serving the connectivity between Singapore and Malaysia is the traffic balancing requirement. imposed by the IMDA, the government of Singapore. So what does it mean basically? In order for a licensed Singaporean telco to interconnect with Malaysian telco along the causeway and the second ring bridge, they must have the same capacity out of Singapore. That is what traffic balancing means. Okay, so the challenge is, because of the nature of this data center to data center connectivity, which are huge, require huge bandwidth. I give you example. One of the OTT requires about 70 tera of capacity from Singapore to Johor. None of the telco in Singapore has the capacity to balance this. So this is one of the biggest issue I see to provide connectivity between Singapore and Johor, because otherwise the connectivity become very expensive and make Johor not the preferred destination. All right, unlike in Batam, which is the other place been considered by the developer, they don't have this policy. All right, the other clusters are actually in Cyberjaya, in Klang Valley area. I don't see much problem in terms of providing connectivity, except for this OTT, they want the same price as what they enjoy in Singapore. I mean, Singapore is small country. I think average distance between one data center to the data center is about 20 kilometers, where Malaysia is about maybe 60 kilometers distance. So, which different cost structure, right? And it's more expensive to actually build fiber in KL. So I think the challenge is actually meeting the target price, because they want Singapore price to be the same as KL. Yeah.
So I think this is where I think we have to look from the perspective of the national policies. I mean, not only Johor, all over Malaysia that will be impacted by that kind of policy. So that's why with the influx of the new investments coming in, that's why we are pushing for more liberal policies that will allow the investment to take place. Obviously, we need that kind of input from the industry. So I think we have about less than 3 minutes. So maybe I just give 1 minute each from each of the panelists to just to state your key thought on this thing moving forward that would shape how you want to go from here to where you want to achieve your aspiration in terms of your businesses, taking into account digital infrastructure appetite, investment appetite that's coming to Malaysia. Yeah, you can start.
Okay.
You can start first.
I think the more important thing is the sustainability of the investment for any investors. So this is the key challenge that everybody is investing, every single country, that they want to see that investment can continue to grow instead of stopping in certain stage, right? So I think the government, right now when you are attracting the investment into a country, you also have to look into how to ensure the continuity and sustainability of such investment for the future in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. Sir?
Okay. To me, this is the opportunity for Malaysia. It's an opportunity for Malaysia to be the data center hub for ASEAN. You know, Singapore, okay lah, Singapore, we can beat them. With the right policies, with the right infrastructure that we have, I'm positive that this is where we should be. And we can see the growth potential of data center will never stop anytime soon. Somebody shared with us the growth of data center potential in Singapore recently. They are seeing about 30% every year. So if you look at it, if you calculate in 5 years, 10 years, it's a great opportunity for the economy of Malaysia. Yeah, thank you.
Saiful, any last thought?
Yeah, as an infrastructure players, I mean, we are very excited with this new development, with the influx of data centers, OTT into Malaysia. My wish is to have, what do you call this, easier and cheaper permitting process for us to actually develop digital infrastructure in Malaysia. Sometimes the cost of permitting is more expensive than than the cost of actually building fiber itself. So that's my worries. So if we can do something about it, so the cost of building network can be transferred to customer, all right? So another area is a well-coordinated and standardized process between state, federal government, so that we don't have to see a lot of multiple parties to actually deploy digital infrastructure. Right? That's my comment.
So thank you. Quite good insight. So to sum up, for digital infrastructure investment in Malaysia, I think the opportunities are there. We are seeing more and more coming in. It's a good problem that we have in terms of how do we manage certain issues. But I'm glad to hear that from the perspective of industry that you can see the future of this industry moving in with all the X times of growth coming in for the next 5 to 10 years. And obviously TMB for embracing this kind of new growth of opportunities in digital investments, which we didn't see that maybe 15 years ago. So being the largest utility provider and the largest cost factor to the investments is good to hear that thing. And obviously connectivity, we have seen more and more players coming in and customize their solution to the needs of the investors. So with this thing, we believe that it has a good combination of attracting the right players into Malaysia. Like Billy said just now, it's not about attracting the investment, but the quality investment is coming in. How do we in Malaysia sustain from this kind of investment and position Malaysia as an emerging hub for this kind of investment for the years to come? Obviously, Singapore is giving opportunities to us as well. We don't see that as the direct competition, but it's more of us fulfilling what Singapore may not be able to fulfill. They have reaped the digital dividend for the past 30 years, and I think the players are looking more broadly into the regional perspective, and Malaysia stands out very clearly of providing that kind of ecosystem for them to grow. Once again, thank you very much, and we hope to continue to getting the support from all the industry players and ecosystem providers. A big round hand of applause to our panelists for sharing their talk today. Thank you very much.
Indeed, thank you very much to our panelists, and also thank you to our moderator today, Encik Wan Murdani Muhammad.